Hello, hi, and welcome to Cinema Express. Today we have Dulquer Salmaan and Aditi Rao Hydari talking about the upcoming film Hey Sinamika. Hi Dulquer. Hello Aditi. So firstly, Dulquer, congrats on completing 10 years in cinema. So from second show to Hey Sinamika, how do you see your journey so far?
It's not something I could have planned. I don't think I imagined A, lasting this long, B, traversing so many industries. So it's been wonderfully organic and unpredictable in the most positive sense. I think I've got to live many lives, many cultures and languages, work with talents across the country. So it's been amazing. I'm really looking forward to what the next 10 years have in store.
Aditi, you also been in the industry for so long. So from like Samohanam, Sufim Sujata, Gili Puchi. So have relationship dramas been your forte? Do these relationship stories inherently attract you?
I think probably, yeah. Because I think you get to live out a lot of emotions. That's always fun as an actor when you get to, play literally. And layers usually come in emotional dramas or love stories because love is like such an all consuming kind of emotion. And in love, there's so much that happens. So in that way, yeah, it's exciting as an actor too, and maybe because I enjoy it, I also attract that kind of work. But I think within that genre of a love story, it's nice to play different characters, and I think people are writing different kinds of love stories, not just typical love stories anymore. So that same love story can be retold in so many ways because no two people's love story is the same. So in that way, we get so many different kinds of relationship dramas.
Dulquer, except for Solo, if you take all your other Tamil films, you've been cast as this good-looking urban boy next door kind of roles. But you have been doing different roles in other industries, like you have done Mahanati or Kurup. So is this something you want to stick on to in Tamil?
No, absolutely not. But see, end of the day, we as actors get to choose from what we're offered, and I don't. I've never been one to think I'll say no to a good film just because it portrays me in the same light, or I'm doing something I've done before. Uh, I definitely want to, like, I've realized this. My Tamil portfolio, the Tamil cinema, the lineup is, like you rightly said, looks a bit driven in the same zone. Like it's all romantic, charming, urban. Uh, but yeah, going forward, I want to change that. I guess, like from your first question, next 10 years, I hope it won't be about that. But sometimes I also have to look up my lineup for the year. So when I see what am I doing, each film of mine should be different from the other. Ideally, I want it to be different like that in every language. Uh, that's not always so easy to do.
Coming to Hey Sinamika, Madan Kirki in yesterday's press meet had said that this film is about the anger of two women. So how do the dynamics work, like between the three characters, Yar and
Yeah, that's essentially the crux of the film. Yaran and Mauna have obviously their own ups and downs in their relationship. Um, how sort of Malawi comes into this mix and how that sets things off is essentially how the film is conceived. But also our own individual dynamics with each other, Yaran and Mauna, Yaran and Malawi, Malawi and Mauna. All of those are what makes it interesting as a film. And I also think a lot of the writing, a lot of the lines adds a lot more depth than this just being a triangular love story. It might seem on the surface something as simple as that, but I think there's a lot more depth in the film, whether it's the scenes, the sequences, the writing, the lines that we speak. Sometimes you can just have a simple story, but have depth in other forms. Sometimes you can have a very convoluted story and have uh, depth like that. But I think this is the form.
in the trailer you heard saying to Dulquer's character that no Kajal's character that I want my husband back. So in Indian films, there's this other woman stereotype that's portrayed very differently. Like, so how did you deal with that? Like, did you try and break that stereotype with Kajal and?
I think in the writing in itself, it's not been treated in a typical way, and that it's not a typical trope, honestly. Actually, we shouldn't talk too much about it, but I think that there's a beginning, middle, and end to each character and their journey, and there's a dignity to the way that it is presented, and there's I think the intent as characters is very clear, and I mean that's all that I'll say. It's not that it's not a typical triangle as
Where
it's,
one is the other woman, or
yeah,
portrayed as somebody.
it's complicated relationships, roller coaster emotions, immaturity,
Bad decisions.
yeah.
That's what I want to ask about. So in your last Tamil film, Kannum Kannum Kolla Edithal, when it was first announced and the promos came out, it looked like something like a rom-com, easy-going film. But when the film came out, it surprised everyone because it was a heist thriller comedy in that sense. So is there more to Hey Sinamika than what we are seeing now? Like,
Sometimes I feel like it's difficult to market certain films.
but it worked in that film.
Exactly what I'm saying. But see, sometimes there are many films where I genuinely wish we could have this discussion after the film, but we have to promote it, and therefore, I feel like the trailer I like that they've at least revealed some of the conflicts in the film. Otherwise, if you're only showing a happy uh, scenes or songs or whatever, you won't know anything about the film. So I think it's smart the way it's cut, that it gives you some of the conflicts but doesn't reveal what. It reveals that there are some complications in the dynamics but doesn't reveal again
What exactly?
So I think when you watch it, you'll know how the dynamics come into play, who sets things in motion. So I think those things will surprise you. And even if it doesn't, I think you'll still feel for the characters and the situations. And sometimes how in haste you make a bad decision, you don't think it through. You don't realize how later on it's going to affect you and how you learn to regret that. I think all of that is explored quite beautifully in the film.
And also how fragile human beings and their it's a combination of, but what I like about it is that it's told through the lens of a rom-com of so here are flawed characters, but they're also real, they also find humor in their everyday lives, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So it's a roller coaster, and it's been made very much like a family film where I feel every person will find some kind of thing to reflect upon, but it's so there's depth, but it's kind of, it's very smoothly, so it's not heavy-handed, the depth.
It's not preachy.
Yeah, it's very much in it told with
Even
humor.
if there's a throwaway line, I think if you catch it, you'll think about it. If you revisit it, I think you'll spend some time. So I think that there's a lot of depth in his writing. I really like what Madhu sir has written. Even lines that I speak as an RJ, I feel like I discuss relevant issues. I have strong opinions. I feel I have strong opinions in the film. Or even a stand that, say, a Malayalam takes the way she thinks, why she thinks the way she thinks. Or a Mauna is a little naughty, a little bratty, a little immature. So it's all... it's tricky to like...
I get that you can't, you can't really.
You're either
I already feel
underselling
like-
or
I already
overselling.
feel like just the trailer has given people so many perceptions about the film.
Yeah.
So many people have a story in
There
their
are
head.
various theories and assumptions.
Yeah, they've already made a story in their head. Some of them even got it right. I'm not taking that away from them. But I feel like there's definitely a lot more than what you see.
But I hope that I wish that people, including myself as an audience, we could come in and watch a film with no preconceived notions, Yeah, that would be such a nice...
I'm one of those people who watches films. I never read reviews. I want to watch it myself. Somebody can recommend me, hey, check this film out. And that's all I need. But I don't like setting my mind to
Me too.
Preconceived notions can spoil your experience.
Yeah, because films are magical, and I feel like it just... You want to enjoy it for what it is,
So, how important is a women filmmaker's perspective in this kind of a story, like what you've been mentioning about so far?
I love that how this whole film is essentially helmed by so many women technicians and so many strong women actors. but also I don't think I see them as gender based. I think we have a very uh, experienced choreographer who's turned director, who has many years of experience, who definitely has a keen eye of a director. I think we have a wonderfully talented DOP, we have a wonderfully talented editor, a costume department, we have a great cast. I think it's wonderfully sort of made by these strong women, but at the same time written by somebody like Madan Karki, who I think is very relevant. He's very current in his thinking, in his writing, and I think everyone is very sensitive towards what you're saying. I don't think they want to brand anything as um, simply sort of put a label to any person, any character, any role, or not be sensitive towards, whether it's women, whether it's culture, whether it's traditions. So I think it's relevant enough. I think the present generation will relate to the film. I think older people relate to the film. Yeah, so I don't think it has any particular gaze to it.
So you both have worked under Mani Ratnam's directions, and Brinda ma'am had choreographed both of you in Mani Ratnam's films. So when the first visuals of Hey Sinamika came out, there were comparisons about this film having a feel of a Mani Ratnam film. How do you see this comparison?
But generally, anyone who's ever worked with the Mani sir, any of his assistants who become directors, they always have this sort of comparison that happens by default with them. So maybe they are or they are not influenced. Maybe it's the genre of the film. Maybe it's us actors as Mani sir, school or whatever. Maybe it's the title. So I don't want to simplify it as something as that, as because Master's worked with Mani sir, or we were, like, therefore it has that. I don't know if that's the case. He's definitely influenced generations of filmmakers and actors, but I don't know if people are consciously doing it. But maybe your aesthetic is refined by consuming his content. But I don't think it's conscious.
So both of you have worked in multiple industries over these years. So Dulquer, I'll ask you, there's a certain expectation from audience in each industry that when are you doing your next film here? So how do you deal with the scheduling and stuff?
I mean, I can't even simplify it as much as being like every year, the beginning, my first film will be Malayalam, my second will be Tamil, therefore every year there is a certain amount of time you wait. Every project is different. I have the same complaint from every industry, but I also think it's a bit of an advantage also, because I'm not bombarding them with film. I'm not oversaturating myself. So sometimes if you're waiting, or if an actor you're familiar with kind of comes back suddenly and surprises you with a film, I think that's better than overexposing myself to the audience. Even now, if you said my Tamil films except Solo have this lover boy romantic angle, that means that's already saturated. So now if I was only focusing on one industry, I could change it up. But so that's one thing I should be conscious of. But also, even though I've done so many films in the same space, because of this gap, I think they're forgiving of it. But ideally, I'd like to change that. So I want to see it as something that works in my favor. I don't see it as something negative, because I'm anyway working constantly and working as hard as I can. And also of late, some of these films are getting released at the same time in multiple languages. So like a Kurup also came out in Tamil. So now the questions become, when is your next direct Tamil film or your next direct Telugu film? It's no longer, because there is some noise I'm making. Yeah.
How do you schedule your projects in that sense?
I can't plan. It's very difficult to plan, because the point is to pick the best of what you are offered across industries, So I think both of us have that kind of thinking. Whatever the language, whether it's Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, French, Spanish, whatever. Great director, great script, I'm doing the film. That's how I function. And I was recently asked, "Oh, we've not seen you in Tamil for so long," and I was just like, "But I've been working non-stop, and so many films have come out." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, my last like straight Tamil film was Psycho," and then after that, now he's Sinamika. But I'm like, I have done a lot in the middle as well, so I'm working super hard and trying to also, what is important is to pick
Yeah,
quality.
but also you can't count the whole COVID break.
Yeah.
Literally pre-COVID and post-COVID, the film I worked on is Hey Sinamika. So technically, this should have been my next release after Kannum Kannum. But they wanted to wait till cinemas opened again. We wanted to have a theatrical release. So it's all of those things.
And also, honestly, like when people ask you this question, I'm actually happy you're saying, "Where are you? Why aren't you doing more Tamil films?" Rather
it's a
than,
good, that means you're
"बहुत
missing
देख
out
लिया,
in-
उसको अभी next." You know?
Yeah, I'm sick of this actor.
Yeah.
Let's see somebody else.
Oh God, same thing again. I'd rather not hear that. So yeah, leave them wanting more of you. That's better.
It's also tough to be like, hey, I haven't planned a Tamil film in this lineup of the 4 languages. And then therefore go and choose something that's not something I
quality,
love
yeah.
or something.
Also, I forgot to ask you this. So, Madan Karki had said that this film is inspired from an Argentinian film. Have you guys seen the film or like?
We haven't seen the original. I remember that
There was some talk of this.
he was told to adapt an idea.
But you haven't watched it
No.
or taken inspirations from it.
As I've always been very adamant about remakes and stuff. But I don't think this is so much of that. Even Master said it has nothing to do with that film. I think what brought all of them together to make a film was something like that, like a global one approaching Madan Karki to rewrite something based on that film, or approaching Master to come. So, but I think it brought Master and him together to make a film, and I think just maybe a basic thought of a relationship drama came from that film. But I don't think you can compare it scene by scene. I think it's original on its own.
Okay, since you're very hesitant to talk about the film before its release, we can talk about something else. So, tell us about the upcoming projects.
I have Salute that's ready. I have Chup that's ready. I have Lieutenant Ram in Telugu, which is still got a little bit of 2-3 days of patch left. That's done. I'm shooting my first sort of web series.
Yeah, with Raj and DK.
And then I have 2 films lined up in Malayalam to start. To start, there's a whole bunch of things. But
So, can I ask when next in Tamil?
I have almost 3 subjects that I've liked in Tamil and that I've kind of lined up. But the problem is I can only line them up on a first come first serve. Like, so if I've said yes to another filmmaker, I can't kind of bring them forward. But there's definitely 1 or 2 subjects I'll shoot this year.
Okay. And Aditi, what are you?
I've actually been spending a lot of time in Bombay doing some Hindi stuff. One is ready, one is getting there, one I'm going to start soon. Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam at the moment I'm not sure. There is stuff, but when it will start, what will happen, I don't like to talk about stuff till I actually start shooting it. Yeah.
How do you deal with projects getting shelved in between? Like due to the pandemic, some of your projects might have gotten shelved and stuff. So how do you deal with it?
It's actually really sad when that happens. It's never happened to me before. It's happened with one of my films, the one that Dhanush was directing. So that I have no idea what's happening on that. I've not heard anything. I finished almost everything of my work on that. And I don't have any information on it, honestly. But I'm just told by the press or whatever that it's not happening. So yeah, you really feel bad because
You
put in so much effort. So.
Yeah, and you feel it. I felt it was turning out good, but that's the first time it's happened. But it's very heartbreaking, and I hope it doesn't happen again.
God, I can't imagine
It's
that.
horrible. But yeah, sometimes projects don't take off or whatever. That's less heartbreaking, honestly.
A lot of time spent waiting for a project to start, and then I've given up on it or something. But not something I've shot for.
That's really horrible.
That's a bit scary.
Hope nothing of that sort happens hereafter. Yeah. So wishing you all great success.
Thank you so much.
For Hey Sinamika.